The Barbers Hill Independent School District is defending the continued in-school suspension of a black student over his hairstyle. He has been suspended since August. The district superintendent recently took out an ad in the Houston Chronicle stating that the school district's hair policy does not violate the state's Crown Act. So joining us this morning live to talk about this ongoing controversy is Texas State Representative and Crown Act co-author Ron Reynolds. Thanks so much for talking with us this morning.
Good morning. It's great to be on with you. Thank you for having me.
No, I appreciate you coming on. And as much as we've covered this issue and this topic, we always just say Crown Act. So basically, it stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Can you explain, the intent and explain the purpose of the Crown Act?
Absolutely. The intent and purpose of the Crown Act is to protect protective hairstyles. People that frequently wear hair with locks or twists or braids. Dreadlocks is what they refer to, that you normally see a lot of African-American people within hip hop culture and students and people of all walks of life. This bill was designed to protect those people from wearing those hairstyles, specifically in schools and places of employment. If you may recall, a few years back, there was a student by the name of DeAndre Arnold at Barbers Hill High School that was suspended and placed in in-school suspension that went viral. He was the reason why we got involved and wanted to pass this Crown Act to protect students who were similarly situated like DeAndre Arnold at Barbers Hill High School.
And now it is almost, we're seeing pictures on the screen of Daryl George so that people can see what his hair looked like when he was suspended. I'm not sure if this is still the way he's wearing it, but according to Barbers Hill ISD, Daryl George, he's the student at the center of this dispute, violated the policy because they say males are prohibited, according to Barbers Hill's policy, they're prohibited from having hair length below their eyebrows, their earlobes, or the top of a t-shirt collar. But when he was placed on suspension last year, we wanted to show people that his hair was pinned up in a way that it doesn't reach below his ears. So I want you to tell me your thoughts on the school district's dress code, but also it's interesting to point out that the Crown Act doesn't mention length of hair anywhere in it.
Well, let me just be very clear with you. We passed this bipartisan bill from a lot of effort and a lot of testimony, and the impetus was Barbers Hill. Barbers Hill knows that it's violating the Crown Act. This bill was passed specifically to cover the hairstyle that Daryl George is wearing. It didn't have to talk about length because in order to have dreadlocks or braids or twists, there's a certain amount of length that you have to have even to have that kind of protective hairstyle. So Barbers Hill is simply making an excuse to continue to perpetuate a discriminatory hair policy that a court has already said was discriminatory. They have a pending lawsuit that was filed by the NAACP. There's also a lawsuit that was filed by the family of Daryl George, and the Texas Legislative Black Caucus, which I happen to be chair of, and the bill author, Retta Bowers, and myself are fighting to make sure that we stop Barbers Hill from continuing to discriminate against these students. They know they're in violation of the Crown Act, and they're simply being defiant by trying to find a loophole because the bill didn't mention length when the spirit and the intent of the bill was to protect those very hairstyles that they're discriminating against.
It is really interesting because how can you braid hair or put it in dreadlocks if it's not below your eyebrows or your earlobes?
That is fact. That's why we think that it's a bad faith and that they are intentionally being defiant. And we are very disappointed that they will continue. And mind you, out of all the school districts in the state of Texas, this is the only school district that is doing this. This is the school district that did it before, and they're trying to continue to do this. And that is why we're continuing to fight. And we appreciate your station for bringing awareness so people see what is happening. This student has been discriminated against from day one. This law went into effect September 1st, and he's been in school suspension and alternative school ever since the school year started. I am very, very upset and disgusted with Barbers Hill High School, their superintendent, principal, and all of their board of trustees for enforcing a policy that they know is outlawed by the Texas legislature.
Well, that is really, I was going to ask that if you had any other issues with any other school districts across the state, since this is a statewide law. So you did mention Daryl George's family. They filed that civil rights lawsuit against Governor Abbott and the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, alleging that they failed to enforce the Crown Act. And then they also filed the separate, I believe you mentioned that, the separate lawsuit that basically asks or not a lawsuit, but asking a judge to rule whether Barbers Hill is violating. And that's the one where you said the judge did rule that Barbers Hill is.
Well, no, there was a previous when I'm going back to when
the first student.
This happened to DeAndre Arnold. So that was before the Crown Act was filed and passed. So there was already court litigation that is actually on appeal from Barbers Hill right now that is still waiting in the courts. But what we have is a Texas law on the books that Governor Abbott signed. We even had a bill signing ceremony. That's how significant this bill was. There was true bipartisan support. So we don't know why Barbers Hill continues to hide behind, oh, there is some length violation of our student code of conduct. This is a bunch of nonsense. And I'm very, very frustrated that these students are continuing to be harassed by Barbers Hill when they should be learning. They should be in school with their peers. But this student is now faced with a situation where he's cut his hair or he can't be a student at Barbers Hill High School.
Got it. We appreciate you so much for talking with us this morning, bringing us up to speed. And we appreciate your take on it. It's definitely a story we will continue to cover. Thank you so much, Representative Reynolds.
Thank you.
Yeah.